Welcome on the Gospel Spice podcast, where you are invited to taste and see that the Lord is good. Gospel Spice is your Christ-centered podcast infused with in-depth biblical flavors and sprinkled with a dash of French culture, guaranteed to spice up your relationship with God. I'm your host, Stephanie Roussel, and here is today's episode. All right, welcome on this episode of Gospel Spice, which is a very unusual episode because we are in February, which means Valentine's Day season. And I just so happen to have some amazing friends and even someone on my team, my beloved Hannah, who are single women. And Hannah is here with me, and we're going to talk about what it's like to be single, because that's a topic that's relevant 365 days out of the year. But it happens to be very relevant in February around Valentine's Day. So I'm talking with three girlfriends, Hannah, who is in her mid-20s, and then I'll be talking with Julie, who's in her mid-30s, and then Jen, who is in her early 40s. And they're all single, and they have three different stories, and they're going to tell us about what it's like to be single, maybe some advice for single people, maybe some advice for us married people who want to interact with singles and don't necessarily know how to do that, or people like me who put their foot in their mouth. So they have lots of advice to give me. So that's what we're doing today. And I'm with Hannah right now. Hey, Hannah, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually very excited about this episode because you and I have actually talked about this for probably a couple of months, doing something like this and catering to single people. But again, like really most of our audience are married, but it's really like, how do you come alongside? How do you love? How do you make them a part of your life? People who are currently single, and what it's like to be single, because I also have a daughter who is almost 20 and she's asking questions. So I have her in the back of my mind, and some of our other team members who actually have questions that we've been asking. I've been asking when I was talking with Jen and Julie, and I'll be asking you so that we can I get inside your head. Does that sound like a plan?
That sounds great. Disclaimer, I do not have all the answers
Oh,
whatsoever.
wait. Oh, no, we can't do this then.
Uh,
But I love that, because it takes all of us, right? And to say I don't have all the answers is actually the wisest thing you could probably say. So let's
yeah.
get into this. Hannah, tell us about you, who you are, what you do, and tell us about your heart as a beautiful single woman in her mid-20s in 2024 on Valentine's Day.
So I am Hannah. I have the absolute privilege of working for Stephanie on the Gospel Spice team. Don't make that
I'm
face.
hiding. If you're only listening, not watching, I'm like, because she's
And
very
I don't
great.
know why she's doing that, because this has been the best job ever. I've been just so happy and lucky to
Do you
be
see
on
why
this
I love
team.
Hannah already? So
It's
easy.
been such an answer to prayer. So I'm very happy to be a part of this team. I'm a marketing project manager, so I run various marketing projects and run our monthly newsletter, which, shameless plug, you should go sign up. It is super fun. You get some little freebies every month, and
Well, tell
just
us about the one we're getting this month. Speaking of
yeah. So we
something
have
beautiful
something.
you've created.
Thanks. Something really special this month that myself and another team member, Roz, have been working on. It is called the Beloved Study, and it is a 5-day email Bible study. Well, more like a little devotional, and it goes straight to your email every single day. So just straight to your inbox. It's super easy. And it goes through 5 different passages. They aren't, it doesn't follow a sequence necessarily. They're not connected to each other, so they can be read as standalones. And every day you will get in your inbox a little devotional. You'll get phone wallpapers, you'll get little scripture cards. There's a Spotify playlist that you can follow along with. And a couple other things. Oh, little Valentine's cards to give to your friends. And also with those cards, I want to add, they don't have to be Valentine's. Like they have our beloved, designs, but they're not specific to Valentine's. So they're great. Roz has kids, and she pointed out that she wants to put them in her kids' lunch boxes. And I thought that was super sweet. So if you want to tape them on your mirror as a reminder, on your dashboard in your car, wherever, they're just super cute. So yeah, if you go to gospelspice.com/free, you can sign up. There's a couple different options. So yeah, you should
Thank
join
you
us.
for
Yeah.
creating that. All right,
Yeah.
tell us about you. Tell us about your life right now.
Sure. So I am 25. I am single, as mentioned before. I have been single most of my life. I was in a relationship in high school for a little bit, but other than that, I have not been in anything serious. And I have a lot of married friends now and friends having babies, so it's been super fun. But yeah, so I went to Liberty University, and so obviously there you hear the whole ring by spring, and you're surrounded by this like seemingly pressure, honestly, of um date, get married, be quick, all the things. So I think I've just being in these Christian communities, you just see it so much. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Just I live in Roanoke, Virginia, and I have wonderful community full of people who are married and single and parents, and I lead Capernaum, which is Young Life for Kids with Disabilities. So I have really rich community of people just in tons of different life stages. So I'm in a really good spot.
Yes, you are. I love it. What would you, um, what advice would you give to you when you were maybe at Liberty and all of this was happening? Or to any, again, my daughter who's turning 20, or anyone who is wondering how to navigate this path of singleness, or anyone who's married and maybe has someone in their life who's single. How do you come alongside them? What advice? So advice for single people in their maybe early 20s, and then advice for those of us who have them in our lives.
Yeah. So I think what I would tell my college self is, and even now, is to remind myself I am young. And just because I see so many people around me getting serious with somebody or getting married, that doesn't mean that it is for me right now. And that doesn't mean that I don't have time, or it just means it's not God's best for me right now. And so I think that's mainly what I would say, is to not give in to this pressure. And I really, I think I have been surrounded by a lot of it, whether it's intentional or not. And I think most of the time it is not intentional. But I think a lot of times it can feel like these Christian communities are, sometimes maybe it seems like they're implying that we are not whole or complete unless we are running the race with somebody else, right? And so I would just encourage my college self, my younger self, to know that that is just not true, and that I can run the race right now. Like I don't have to wait. Um, yeah, I think that's really mostly what I would say.
Oh, I
Short.
love that, because you're giving yourself and others permission to run their race and not wait.
Mhm.
That applies to so many areas of life. Like I receive that for some of my own areas in my life where I feel like I need to wait for a particular outcome before I can enter the race. But that's just so not true. That's distracting from God's purpose. He has a purpose for you, whatever your married status is.
Yeah,
Obvious. It sounds so obvious, and yet our culture and even our Christian subculture doesn't allow for that. So that's good. I want us to
yeah.
chew on that. Run your race. Don't
Mhm.
wait.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're lesser than when you're single.
Of
It,
course.
it does not mean you are lesser than. You still have worth and value. And honestly, that's a lot of what we talk about in the Beloved study. The Beloved study is not for singles. It is not, it is for anybody. And it's been really cool for me writing it because it's been such a sweet reminder of um in good times and bad, like we are created with value, and the Bible tells we are of great value and bought with a price. And yeah, so just a reminder that you are not lesser than because you are single.
And now, a brief message from Gospel Spice.
At Gospel Spice, you often hear us say, pay, play, and pray Gospel Spice forward. Well, I'm here to tell you how to play Gospel Spice forward. You can share a podcast with your friends and loved ones. If you're listening to an episode and it really touches you and you think of a friend or a loved one, simply text them and share our episode with them and let them know, I was thinking of you and I heard this. I think it's going to bless you. It's just that simple. Now, another way to play it forward is to leave us a review wherever you're listening to the podcast. Help us with that algorithm thing so that others can find Gospel Spice. Thank you.
Now, back to the video.
So I have two questions. So we have 3 girls on our team, Grace, Michaela, and Sarah. They're all 19. They're college students. And Sarah is my daughter and 2 of her girlfriends who are on staff with us. And they're delightful. We love them to pieces. And we did ask them, what questions would you ask Hannah and Julie and Jen? And so here's one question that one of them asked. She asks, how do you find contentment in waiting on God's plan? So I'm asking it as she did. What's your answer to that?
Yeah. I don't think we're waiting on God's plan. First of all, I think God's plan is right now. I think God's plan is our history. God's plan is our future. It is right now. And so remembering that is really important. That yeah, again, we don't have to wait and to start. We can be in the right now. And so I think that remembering that is really important. And also it is a season of waiting. Maybe if it is a desire of yours to be married, and to have that, then I think focusing on this just isn't God's best for me right now, and that is okay. Just because it's God's best for somebody else right now doesn't mean that it's God's best for me. And I can be patient, and I can trust that he is still El Roi. He is the God who sees me. He is still with me. And even though I feel this like earthly loneliness, I am not alone. And I think that's just really important to remember. So
How do you cultivate that contentment amidst the season?
it's a great question, and I'm still working on it.
Thank you for saying that, because people feel like they have to have it all figured out, but honestly, none of us has it figured out. We're all
at all.
Right? Paul says, I have learned to be content. And then he describes really good and really bad circumstances. But with all due respect, the dude is old by the time he says that. Okay, we're still figuring it out. And I love Paul. I mean, I can say this because people know me. They know that I have the highest respect for him. But come on, he's an old man by this point. So, I mean, this is Philippians. It's one of his latest letters. Come on, right? So, and he says, I finally figured it out. It's okay, that gives us permission. So what does it look like for you, contentment right now?
Right now, if you want the honest truth, I am in a season of not being content with it. It is hard. And I think, with Valentine's coming up, it's just a time of year that it's so in your face. But then you come around and people call it cuffing season and, all these different things that we have these little sayings for. And it's just come on. But I think remembering that I can hold 2 things in one hand. I can hold the tension of I am so happy for all of my friends who are getting engaged, getting married, having the babies. And I can love on them and celebrate them and be so walk in that season with them. But in the same breath, I can be sad for myself. I can feel the grief of the disappointment of it not being right now for me. And I think that's true for most areas of life, when we feel let down or hurt by our current circumstance. Like, we can be happy for other people who are experiencing what we want, and we can still be hurting ourselves, and that is okay.
Yeah. Yeah, someone gave me recently a very kind compliment, and she said that what she appreciated in me is that I was cultivating the private sphere. And that's what you're describing, basically. It's about cultivating your private relationship with God, cultivating your inner heart, even if outwardly it doesn't look like you wish it did.
Yes.
And I think God honors that. He really focuses on how we cultivate the inner heart, how we are striving for contentment, how we're fighting for it, how we desire contentment, and we find him in that, and regardless of our external circumstances. And so I'm saying the same to you. I see you cultivating your inner heart, your relationship with him, and he honors that. He values that more than any external relationships. So indeed, God is El Roy. He does see you, and he's pretty stinking proud of you, I would say.
Thank you. Thanks,
All right, before we move on to the next piece, any books or resources? That was another question that someone had. Books or resources you'd recommend?
Yeah, there are so many, and you need to be careful when you look for them. I think there are some things out there that are very like just me centered and focused on the self, but I think it's Single, Dating, Engaged, Married. That one's great. I think Annie F. Downs, she has a ton of great resources, and she has a great podcast too, and she just launched a singles purpose league, it's called. And so things like that, where you can find community with other people who are in similar stages of life as you. And I also think your best resource, this is kind of a curveball answer, but I think one of your best resources is your people, your community. Don't be afraid to admit when you're hurting. Don't be afraid to admit your desires and your unmet desires. I think that's one thing I've been learning a lot is I'm so quick to put on a brave face, right? And so I think just being able to be vulnerable is super important yeah, this is something I want, and this is something that I don't have right now, and it is hard. And so lean into your community. I think that is one of our greatest resources. And obviously that's not a book or a podcast or anything, but your people are the ones that are walking through it with you.
Yeah, it's a real resource. Absolutely. It really, really is. Actually, that's an amazing segue, because what we're doing next is that we're going to watch Julie and then Jen. I had a short conversation with each of them, asking them specific questions. And then you and I are going to get together again after we've listened to both of them, because I want your take on what they had to say. Okay?
Yay, I'm excited.
All right, we're back on. We just listened to Julie and Jen, and I'm with Hannah again, and I would love your thoughts. But before we go there, can I say, and did anyone else notice who's watching or listening, those three girls, Hannah, Julie, and Jen, they are so completely all in for the kingdom. Like, they have thriving ministries. They are absolutely not in waiting mode. They are completely absorbed by their calling and their kingdom work, and I am just so inspired by them. So Hannah, any major takeaways from Julie maybe, and then from Jen?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I took so many notes. Literally so good. I felt super encouraged. A couple things that I'll go Jen first, then Julie. Jen said, it's not a rejection, it's his protection. I love a one-liner. I love something that rhymes that I can remember, that's easy. And I loved that. And we can say that for literally so many things, not just like relationships. And so I loved that one-liner.
Okay, say it
So
to
good.
us again. Give it to us again. What was that one
Not
line?
a rejection, it's his protection.
Okay, let's all take that home today.
Yes, so good. I will be writing that down and putting it on a sticky note on my mirror. So good. And I also loved when she said singleness isn't your status or your identity. We don't see married people as that. Oh yeah, she's a married person. Oh yeah, they, like we talk so much about we put on this hat of this is my identity, and it's not. It is it's just a part of our lives right now, but it is not the core of who we are. And so I loved that she compared it to we don't call married people as part of their identity. It seems so silly to say out loud when we do. But we don't need to just put singles in a category. But we can be healthy members of the church, and we can be important and parts of life groups, and serving and things like that. So I just love that. And that marriage is not the end all be all of completion and satisfaction. Like, we find our completion and our satisfaction in Christ, because he is the only one that is complete and that can make us complete. That is it. So I just loved that.
And believe me, us married people, we know that really well, but we're not, like, this does not make us any more complete. There's just this weird idea out there, but like, it's a myth for everybody. We all know it's not true, or we should know it's not
why we do that. Like,
right?
I don't know how that started or how we got there, but
from the pit of hell, girl. That's where it started.
Yeah,
To make
for
everyone
real.
feel insecure and unfulfilled and incomplete.
Yes.
It goes against Christ to say that. So
yes. And something that Julie, a couple things she said that really stuck out to me, is that she asks God not to allow her focus to be on finding her person, but to maintain her focus on the Lord. So when her person, when and if her person comes along, it is for God and not for her. And I think so often we hear, like, find your contentment in the Lord, and then because of that your person will come. And there's I get why we say that, but it's, if our person comes, it is not for us, it is for the Lord and for the kingdom. And that is what the unity is about. And so I just loved how she said that. I think it puts a really good extra something, on that common, like, phrase that we hear. And then also her emphasis on actually doing life together. I live with chronic fatigue and some funky little health things. And so I've learned so much of this. Like, I have friends that will just come and sit on my bed with me while I attempt to clean my room. Or, they will come and just be in my presence because I can't go do something fun that day because I'm too fatigued. And they will just come and sit on my couch and be close to me. And that is doing life together. I have learned so much more about what that looks like through these health issues that I've dealt with. And so that was just really cool to me, just cool perspective. And I think it's so valuable, and talks about, what we talked about earlier, about lean into your community as your resources, lean into your people. It's so important.
So good. I have benefited so much from listening and learning from the three of you. I'm so grateful that you've been so open and vulnerable. So seriously, Hannah, thank you. And Jen and Julie, thank you so much for paving the way for people like me to understand a bit more and walk a mile in your shoes in a tiny little way. So I'm so grateful for your vulnerability, your candid honesty, and most importantly, for your fire for Jesus. Oh my goodness, you inspire me so much. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so glad I got to do this. It's been really fun.
This is fun. And don't forget, go get your beloved resources on the website, on the newsletter, because you don't want to miss out. It's really, really cool stuff. Whether you're married or single, does not matter. Your status is in Christ, not in whatever relational status you may have right now. So thank you, Hannah, so much, dear friend. Love you.
Thank you. Love you.
And now, a brief message from Gospel Spice.
Has Gospel Spice been a blessing to you? If so, would you partner with us to help inspire our generation to delight in God by paying Gospel Spice forward? Our goal is to continue providing in-depth, high-quality, free Bible resources for all. We need your financial support to keep this going. please pay it forward today by making a tax-deductible donation at gospelspice.com/donate.
Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Merci. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and click that bell icon so you are the first to know when we release a new video or episode. Also, would you please consider helping us reach new people with the good news of the spice of the gospel by leaving a 5-star review for the Gospel Spice podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, iTunes, Google, etc. Finally, share and follow us on social media to spread the word of Gospel Spice. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to tune in our podcast with new episodes every Friday. I'll see you in our next video very soon, right here. Merci.